What do you do when a movie you
Loathe entirely.
makes a top 100? Let's have an animated discussion. Wally follows an adorable trash cleaning robot living alone on Earth, suffering from human consequences until he meets the love of his life. And like love always does, Wally is now in for the adventure of a lifetime. This movie stars Ben Burt, Alicia Knight, Jeff Garlin, and Fred Willard.
Space is the final frontier.
When I first saw this movie, at the ripe old age of 17, I hated it. I watched it twice in theaters to give it a good shot to make sure I hated it because I hadn't really hated an animated movie before. But there comes a time in everyone's life when they grow, adapt, become more, or they just grow the F up. And I think that's what happened with me. I think I just grew up. I hadn't seen a lot of silent films, and while it's not a fully silent film, but it is the quietest animated movie I had seen at that point. There was so much. I knew the context of the movie, I knew what it was about, and still there was so much watching it this time that I was just like, how did I ever hate this movie? It's a phenomenal movie. Aren't you glad that your tastes mature as you get older? I think I'm gonna try Caviar again. Wally might be in my top 5 now. When I was 17, if I had told my 17-year-old self that, I would have laughed. So it's crazy. I love when a project challenges you. I love how doing this channel has caused me to revisit things I never thought I would like. So now that I've admitted my grave sin, let's jump into the wonderful world of Wally. Wally does a great job of opening up with a way of truly highlighting the lack and loneliness. What's amazing is they start with such a bright and vibrant chorus song from Hello Dolly.
Out there's a world outside of Yonkers.
Not only is multiple people singing, but they're talking through the plans of what to do when you're sad. It's warm and welcoming, and then fades into this monotone, faraway speaker sound that truly highlights the loneliness of Wally in his life. We quickly find out what Wally's name means: waste allocation load lifter, Earth class. And it makes me wonder which came first, the acronym or the name. I'm always curious about this. Probably knew he was going to be a trash cleaning robot because that's the whole premise of the movie. So did they come up with the acronym and then the name? We meet Wally's only friend Hal, who's named after Hal Roach. We start to see Wally's love for humans and the things he collects, starting with the trash lid and how he uses it as a hat in that moment while watching Hello Dolly. I love the foreshadowing moments that the movie had, like starting with the fire extinguisher. It alludes to the most beautiful scene in the movie, which is funny because I think we still could have had that beautiful scene in the movie even if we didn't establish the chaos of the fire extinguisher. But it also shows the wonder of discovery for Wally. He outlived all his counterparts, gets annoyed with the monotony of life, but he still enjoys the discoveries he makes. So it makes the scene of him discovering the fire hydrant twofold in a really cool way, because seeing his frustration in that moment when he first discovers it and then what it leads to at the end, it's beautiful. I just love it. We also start to meet Eve after this, and the first thing we see about her is her start her job immediately. As soon as the ship leaves, though, she looks around to make sure she's alone, and she just starts to fly, like freely. This is such an important scene, and one that I think could be missed if you're not really paying attention, because it could just seem like a robot is flying. And but you can tell she wanted this moment of freedom, like enjoying her new surroundings without being bogged down by responsibility. It's obviously she takes her job seriously, but it showcased that there is more to her than just this classified directive, which I love because it it's one of those establishing shots I talked about before where it's like it establishes who this character is. Someone who has a strong sense of responsibility but wants to have some fun moments of freedom. Something I think is important to note in this movie are the color schemes. You can see how both Wally and Eve are a reflection of their respective world. Even when we first encounter the humans of Axiom, we start to see how all the humans start to change their colors to blue. It showcases how monotone the life is there as well. It may be slicker and prettier, but it's still just as, if not more boring. At least Wally had a purpose, as did all the other robots, but beyond the captain, did any human have a life or purpose at all? They just sat there, and the purpose of Axiom was to be this temporary vacation until Earth was better, and now we're 700 years into the future. And so there have been 6 generations just living in vacation mode, and with the added effects of space and gravity. Their bone density is lighter. So there's so much to play into this thought of even in relaxing, monotony can be a problem. You know, you need a balance. Wally was working too hard. Eve was also working very hard, but the people on the ship were not working at all. And you could see the dangers on both sides, honestly, which I really enjoy. This is something that we talked about in Fantastic Four, the importance of costume design and what it can tell and how it can emphasize a point or it could share a whole new point that's not even really being talked about. And I love that. I love that in this movie. You see how they were reflections of their worlds and how both of them have this lonely monotony that needs to be addressed and adjusted. Okay, can we just talk about how expressive Wally is? Like can we just talk about the oh my gosh. His the way Wally moves, the way Wally moves is everything. It's so crazy and it's so first of all, the animation in this movie 10 out of 10 insane. He's just so free flowing. He's amazing. But then the way that he's expressing himself, I am gagging and I can't take it. It's this beautiful thing. It's just so fluid and free and extremely expressive. And even just watching the scene where Wally is aware that Eve is about to be taken by the ship, you just see the close up of his eyes and then his eyebrows just go with that little gasp, and you know everything. You know that he realizes he has to hurry up. And apparently Andrew Stanton, who was the director, watched Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton every day for a year. He wanted to fully grasp how to emulate physical communication and comedy, and you can absolutely see how it pays off in this movie. It also helps to see how well this animation is done. To put it into context, in 2006, Over the Hedge came out with DreamWorks. And if you watch Over the Hedge in comparison to Wally, first of all, animation has skyrocketed in those 2 years. It's just crazy. But then you see all the detail in how Wally moves, and it's almost like two completely different eras of animation. It's still fascinating to see how far we came in animation from 2000 to 2010. It's just insane. It's just insane. And it's something I could talk about for a long time because if you really think about what it takes to make Wally move the way that they made Wally move, it's just he's like he's a it's like he's his own entity at that point, you know? He's just it's almost like he's not animated. He just moves so oh my gosh, I could talk about this for hours. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. He's even more free flowing than Eve is, and technically Eve's supposed to be the more evolved robot because they were created later. But Wally is just like there's so much freedom in his movements, and I'm gonna calm down now. Maybe not. Maybe I won't calm down, but I'll think about calming down. And thinking's half the battle. When I was younger, this movie felt like it dragged on, but watching it now, it felt so perfectly timed. I've seen a lot of movies now that seem to really struggle with either moving the story along too quickly or at a snail's pace, and this one felt seamless. I also think this is tied to how well each story beats leads to the next. You can see why moment A leads to moment B, leads to moment C, and so forth. Until this is the part that kind of like took me out just a little bit because I've been studying story flow and I like to see how things flow into each other. Kind of like Marty Supreme had a very insane way of having one chaotic moment flow into another chaotic moment. In Wally, there's a scene where Wally shows Eve the plant and then Eve freaks out, turns into like an incubator and just is blinking. But it doesn't explain why Wally shows her the plant. Like we know that he's showing her his building and then they are interacting and she accidentally hits him and he hits the wall and then he comes down and he fixes his face and then he shows her the like the fire extinguisher or sorry the lighter, which is really cool. But then he's like, oh, let me show you this, and I don't know, like obviously he's showing her things around, but I don't understand why he thought to show her the plant in that moment. And maybe it's just enough that he's in this new place, he found that and it was new and he wanted to show her something new. That could just be it, and maybe that's all it is and I'm overthinking it. But I'm always like, what made him decide, oh, now I should show her the plant? Because it's just like a thought, and I couldn't see anything in that scene that reminded him of the plant. Anyways, But I will say the way he takes care of her while working on the plant, while she's holding the plant, is so sweet. It's just the cutest little thing. It's so cute. As we fast forward a bit, we meet Mo, who's a cleaning droid who takes his directive very, very seriously. It's all very important. As he wakes up, we see a moment of him establishing a new law in the world. The robots can only move when the roads are lit up. And then, just as quickly as it's established, we start to see that it's broken again. It's this amazing question of what is more important. Is it law or joy? The law is don't move unless the path is lit for you. But Mo's purpose is to clean any dirt or foreign contamination that he sees. We see in the end that Mo chooses what he loves, which is cleaning, and we know what that leads to. But it's amazing to showcase that quick battle. It's almost a foreshadowing of the rest of the movie because Otto goes through the same issue. His directive is to serve the captain, but his law is to ensure that the humans stay on Axiom and never return home. In the end, we see Otto choosing law, and now sticking to law is what kills him in the end. And this is very interesting juxtaposition because in Mo choosing what he loves, which is cleaning, he ends up helping save the world, and in Otto trying to save humankind by choosing law, he ends up losing himself. And it's so small, it's very subtle if you're not really looking at it or thinking about it, but it is, well, it's pretty cool, guys. I'm fascinated by it. And I like that contradiction. And I love a movie that shows what happens if you chose the other option. It's like a multiverse almost. Like Mo and Otto are almost the multiverse versions of each other. And I really enjoy that. What laws are you following that could be distracting you from what you're joyful about? Could it be laws that other people put on you? Like, it's a very trippy question. What is keeping you from feeling like you're you? And is that worth it? And do you feel more yourself following the law, or feel more like yourself following your joy? Man, Wally's deep, guys. Who'd have thought? In watching this movie, there's something fascinating that I realized. Shelby Forthright, the CEO of Big and Large, was also the president or world leader. This felt like a form of foreshadowing to the real world as it talks about the dangers of consumerism and how it can comfort us into a false sense of security, leading us to always struggle to be or want more. With this commentary on the danger of a monopoly, as well as the powers that be telling us what is best for us, it feels very ironic hearing this message come from such a big company that is a huge monopoly in the world right now. When you think about Disney, you think of the nostalgia, you think of the movies, you think of Disneyland, you think of Kingdom Hearts, you think of now Star Wars and Marvel, depends on who you are. But it's also this huge company that runs billions of dollars through it. For example, when Jimmy Kimmel was suspended and everyone canceled their Disney Plus accounts, just their Disney Plus accounts, they lost $4.4 million in like under a week. That's how much power they have and how much money they have access to. And so the question is, when a company is that self aware and then makes a movie like this, what should the thought process be? And this is coming from someone who's a huge Disney fan. I just received a Mickey Mouse beanie from Japan. Disney's influence is everywhere. And I think there's something dangerous about a company that is self aware and broadcasts it. Because if they call it out, it could lull the world into a false sense of security, saying, oh, they understand the problem, so they'll be careful with the power that they yield. But that's the danger. If you trust that the company is aware of their power to remain unchecked because they understand their power and acknowledge it in a way that leads us to believe they understand the dangers of it, it gives them free reign to keep going because it's almost like the shame is gone. It's like, yeah, we know what we're capable of. We're going to do it. Or we know what we're capable of. And everyone's like, oh, they know what they're capable of, so we should be okay. No, it's like, we know what we're capable of and we're going to do what we're capable of. You know? That's something that I struggle with in media. The way that we watch reality happen on screen, but because we use movies to escape it, it leads us to think of these horrible moments almost fondly. Wally's a beautiful movie and ends on such a happy note where there's hope in humanity restoring the world as it is. And that's great. It's like, wow, what a beautiful story, a nice happy ending. But it's not just a beautiful story, it's reality happening in real time. And the question is, what do we do now that we are receiving this information through media and we know what is happening? Don't have the answers, guys. Don't have the answers. My favorite quote in the movie is, "Hey, computer, define dancing." As Wally and Eve are dancing behind the captain. It is a beautiful, beautiful moment of just watching the reality of something that someone has never heard of before and how poignant it can be to see the reality of that. I think that that scene is just, it's probably one of the best scenes. I think it's the best scene in the movie. It's gorgeous, guys. It's so gorgeous. Overall, I have to say that Wally has skyrocketed to the top for me as far as favorite animated movies go. Don't tell anyone who knew me as a teenager because I was vocal about how much I did not like this movie. I never thought I would say that, especially with how intense the message is and what it implies for the reality of where we are in this time of history. I think in some ways that makes me like it more. I enjoy things that are kind of ahead of its time, but it also makes me sad because you see the reality of where we are, and you can tell people knew where we were headed before we got there and we're still there, and that can be discouraging sometimes. I would highly recommend you watch it if you haven't, and I would agree this movie absolutely deserves to be in the top 100 of all time. Overall, I give this movie 4.5 out of 5 electric kisses. Let me know what you think in the comments if you agree or disagree. As always, I hope you have an amazing day and see you later.